Hey guys, Edward here from Edward79, the mixed content creator. Now, spoiled food is usually thought of as a bad thing, being commonly associated with diseases and food poisoning. But microbes in your food aren't always a bad thing, and some foods, such as coffee, bread, cheese, beer, and even chocolate, all get their signature tastes, textures, and smells from microorganisms. So without further ado, here are 7 examples of how microorganisms influence the food you eat. Meat left out on the counter for months on end is usually seen as extremely dangerous, and with bacteria like E. coli and Salmonella running around in there unchecked, it's easy to see why. But meat left out on the counter for months on end is actually what salami is. Let me explain. You see, salami is often coated with lots of salt, a deadly toxin to microorganisms that kills the microbes that would otherwise cause the meat to spoil. What this does is that it allows for salt-tolerant but totally harmless microbes to take over, eating sugars, which are usually dextrose, and producing lactic acid. And very uncoincidentally, this lactic acid is actually what gives salami its signature flavor. So the next time you're enjoying salami, be sure to give thanks to these friendly microbes for giving salami its signature flavor. Right before they're roasted, coffee beans sometimes go through a process of fermentation. What this is that the fermentation process is caused by microorganisms breaking down the mucilage layer surrounding the coffee bean. And these microbes also suppress the growth of pathogenic fungi and create the signature flavors and smells of coffee, sometimes even actually boosting the flavor of said coffee. So the next time you have a nice hot cup of coffee in the morning, give thanks to fermenting microbes that make your coffee smell and taste the way it does. Bread, too, is also a product of microorganisms, and one of the most famous products of microbes at that. Except this time, it's not bacteria, mold, or fungi, it's yeast that's at work. Because once it's activated, this yeast feeds on the sugars in bread dough, and burps out bubbles of carbon dioxide that makes bread rise. This yeast also releases other chemical compounds that give us many of the distinct flavors and smells associated with bread. So what that means is the hardworking yeast is to thank for your delicious loaf of bread, or whatever you choose to make with it. There are many different types of cheese, and different microbes are responsible for different types. Blue cheese, for example, is made by mold spores being mixed into the milk, fermenting it and giving the final product its rich, funky flavor. And if you've noticed that your blue cheese absolutely stinks, well, microbes are also to blame for that, because the bacteria that cause blue cheese to be super stinky are also the same bacteria that cause foot odor. Yum? But bacteria do more than just make cheese absolutely stink. In fact, microbes can also be thanked for giving Swiss cheese its signature holes. That's because these holes are caused by bacteria in the cheese. He's burping out carbon dioxide bubbles that then pop and give Swiss cheese its signature holes. But basically, any kind of cheese is basically milk that's been fermented by some sort of microbe, be it bacteria, yeast, or fungi. This one may seem like a surprise to many, but there are a lot of microbes to thank for your delicious bar of chocolate. This is because bacteria and yeast ferment and eat sugars in cacao beans. Yes, the same beans that are used to make chocolate. This, in turn, mellows out bitter polyphenols and other bitter compounds, and creates the rich, complex flavor of chocolate that we all love and crave. Including me. It should come as no surprise to basically anyone that beer is a fermented beverage. And boy, is there a lot of microbial action at play in your beer. You see, beer is made when brewer's yeast feeds on the sugars in the wort, converting those sugars into ethanol and making beer alcoholic. The yeast also release flavor compounds that give beer its signature taste. So, the next time you catch yourself enjoying a cold one, if you're 21 and up that is, be sure to thank that hardworking brewer's yeast for giving beer the flavors you love. Well, again, if you're 21 and over that is. Finally, we come to wine, one of the most common alcoholic beverages in the world. This quote-unquote grown-up grape juice is made very similarly to beer, that being that yeast break down sugars in the grape juice and convert them into ethanol, or alcohol for those of you who don't speak science like I do. This, in turn, gives you wine. But the fermentation process also has a different effect, releasing aroma compounds. You see, the fermentation process also releases aroma compounds called stereoisomers, or however they're pronounced, which give wine its signature flavor. So there you have it, 7 different examples of how microbes influence the food and drinks you love. We hope you enjoyed this video. As always, be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!